Hello, my name is Ashley Greer, and this is my assignment for the video critique. Just want to forewarn you, I am a terrible out loud reader. So, to start off, question number one: what is your interpretation of Konabulu's statement saying that I'm obsessed with race and racism in America is like saying I'm obsessed with swimming when I'm drowning? Konabulu has been labeled as obsessed with race since the mainstream of his comedy is about race. I think his statement saying I'm obsessed with race and racism in America is like saying I'm obsessed with swimming when I'm drowning. He's explaining that there is so much racism in America and being obsessed with it would overpower your life, much like drowning would kill you. He does discuss race a lot during his skit, but I think he just takes America's obsession with race and addresses it head on through comedy. Number two, what does Konabulu mean by I hear about the year 2042 all the time, but don't worry, white people, you were the minority when you came to this country. Things seem to have worked out for you. Konabulu's jokes that by the year 2042, whites will no longer be the majority, but he argues them to not stress over that since they were the minority when they came to this country, and that seems to have worked out in their favor. As we all know, when Christopher Columbus discovered America, the land was already occupied by the Indians. Even though the Indians held the majority race at this time, the whites soon took over and still remain the majority to this day. I think this is what Konabulu is referring to when he says things seem to have worked out for you. Number three, what is Konabulu referring to in this statement that 51% is not united front? Just ask a black guy and a Korean guy what happens when a black guy walks into a Korean guy's store. I bet you that interaction isn't pleasant. There is some historical tension there. My statement would be, in his comedy skit, Konabulu is explaining that math behind white people still not being the minority, even though they may only make up 49% of the population. The statement that 51% is not a united front in his way of saying that the whites would only be the minority if the other 51% of the population were the same race. He digs deeper into this by saying, just ask a black guy and a Korean guy what would happen when a black guy walks into a Korean guy's store. The historic tension he is referring to is the incident where a 15-year-old African-American girl named Latasha Harlins was shot and killed by a Korean store owner because he thought she was stealing orange juice from his store. This incident occurred only a few weeks after the Rodney King beating, which resulted in the onset of mass riot and looting across the Los Angeles area. Latasha Harlins laid on the ground dead, clenching the money that she was going to use to pay for the orange juice. The lost life of this innocent girl caused great tension between blacks and Koreans, yet Konabulu takes the tragic event and turns it into comedy. Number four, do you agree with Konabulu's statement? White isn't a thing, race isn't a thing, it's all made up. It's a social construct. It's a way to separate us and destroy us. Why or why not? I partly agree with Konabulu's statement in this question. I know we all use the term white as in race very loosely, but I do agree with white isn't a thing when referring to as how it is so commonly used. To me, white is a general racial classification of individuals with light skin color. However, there are so many ethnical backgrounds or mixes that make up the white race. For example, myself, I am half white and half Asian. However, when most people look at my skin tone, they see white, which I am, but I also am Asian. I disagree with this statement, race isn't a thing. I do not like labeling people in any way, but it's hard for me to understand the statement, race isn't a thing. We have all lived our entire lives labeling ourselves and checking the boxes to which race we belong. So how do we not ever believe that race isn't a thing? Although I do believe that race is a thing, I wish it wasn't. I also believe that race is used as a social construct and as a way to separate us. I think race is a human intended classification system to define physical differences between people. However, instead of it being used solely for that purpose, is unfortunately used for oppression and violence among races. Number 5, describing Konabulu's sense of humor. Do you like it, dislike it, why or why not? Before this assignment, I had never heard of Konabulu, but I do find him to be sarcastically hysterical. I like that he does not shy away from the sensitive topics and turns these touchy subjects into comedy. He seems very intelligent by the way he uses historical references throughout his comedy. I think him being Indian makes his racial comedy more receptive, especially since he often makes fun of his ethnicity. I think racial comedy often comes off a little different coming from a minority figure rather than from a white individual. Last question. Do you think addressing serious issues through comedy is appropriate? Why or why not? Yes, I do. Yes, I think addressing serious issues through comedy is appropriate. Comedy is fun and entertaining, and because of that, I believe it is capable of engaging individuals who otherwise would not have the interest in serious issues at all. Regardless of the topic, I feel that comedy pulls people in and creates an emotional connection to the topic at hand, and it turns and it's engaging to the audience. Although this engagement comedy draws attention to a lot of unspoken and restricted topics that are often not discussed, often when comedy is attached to it, it is an uneasy subject, and it seems to lower resistance on the issue and breaks down social barriers through laughter. Sure, serious issues can always be overstepped, even through comedy, but more than not, I think comedy creates an appropriate and easy way to deliver this information. Thanks.